So first of all, thank you all so much for having me here today. Thank you to the sponsors, thank you to C3E, thank you to all of you sitting here today, and congratulations to all of the award winners. I am incredibly impressed and can't wait to hear more about what you did. So let's get started here with the presentation on the next slide. So let's start out with the basics. What are systems, right? Sometimes they're big, they're monolithic pillars. We can think of systems like government, education, private business. Some systems are cultural, like racial systems or religious systems. They're typically expensive, they're very complex, they're politically charged, and they're also extremely difficult to change. On the next slide. What happens in the shadows between the pillars? Other systems grow in the cracks. This is because people have needs, and they have needs that aren't being met by the systems. This can be in the form of coalitions, special societies within academia, climate action committees, ERGs within companies, women's organizations. Right? And the reason why they grow is because there's a need that needs to be served. We're answering a call. Next slide. But a lot of times what happens with these new systems is that they take on a life of their own. They grow beyond the original intent as a stopgap. And sometimes they get just as unwieldy as the big core pillars themselves. Sometimes they don't have the same security features or governance. And this is a very typical scenario that we see in industry. Sometimes we see this in government or even individual organizations. And it points to the same core sentiment. We need to go faster. We need to be able to answer the call, and organizations and the people that they serve. And this is very important. Right? I work for a huge company. And the goal of this company is not to make money, but it's to serve the communities in which the employees sit. And when we're answering this call, these big systems can't wait, we can't wait, the people can't wait for the monolithic development to solve all of their problems. We need solutions that can be designed and created by the people closest to the problem. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful to be here to talk to you at this critical time. We feel a fierce urgency. I've been in the environmental sector for 25 years, and this is the very first time I've ever been popular. And this is because we're at a critical time, right? We are facing an extraordinary challenge to stabilize our climate and build quickly towards net zero. Many organizations and individuals are setting targets to achieve carbon neutrality, but we know that neutrality is not enough. With all the pledges to date, even if they're fully achieved, we'll of the requirement to bring our global energy-related carbon dioxide emissions to net zero by 2050. This is going to take the work of governments, global governments, organizations, and individuals. And we need to fundamentally transform common practices. And this is what I call just the ultimate good project. I mean, we all remember back in school when we have these good projects, this is the ultimate good project. And the stakes are high. We're talking about our collective civilization. And it's clear that the momentum is growing, right? We see that organizations are energized and there's a lot of passion and action that's being taken. But we believe that the world needs not only bold ambition and visionary solutions, but we also need to make tangible short-term changes. So some of the work that I do is working with businesses as a strategist and as a business architect to accelerate organizations' momentum towards their sustainability goals. On the next slide, please. So I'm a geoscientist by education and training. I used to work for the Department of Interior, the USGS. I've worked quite a bit in Everglades restoration, environmental consulting, wastewater treatment, and water production. I used to be an adjunct professor, and I'm also an energy lead. I've worked around the world in energy, environmental sciences, manufacturing, and also in infrastructure. I started out my career as a geotechnical engineer. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is leading purpose-driven work. I support a range of initiatives at Microsoft. So I started as a geoscientist and now I'm an industry strategist. And I support a range of initiatives around the energy transition. I help organizations in their roadmap for claiming and being able to change their organizations from a disruptive capability by adding digital empowerment to the work that they're doing. I leverage our 3 cloud commercial strategy. And I also focus on climate equity and action and also innovation. The next slide, please. So when we look at what companies are doing around the world, we're seeing companies step up to solve the problem. To date, there are over 3,500 companies that are taking action worldwide, working with their science-based target initiatives to set net zero commitments. In the United States alone, we're seeing over 493 of those companies that have set science-based initiative targets towards net zero. And that represents 68% of the global GDP. That's a really important point to make. I work with hundreds of these companies and help them to empower that journey through digital transformation. I'll get into that in a second. On the next slide, it's important that we look at how sustainability looks from an economic standpoint and why we're seeing this change. Right? I said I've been in this business for 25 years. And I haven't been, like I said, popular before, but this is a big reason why, right? Sustainability and a lot of the changes that we're seeing has real economic implications, just as we heard earlier today around the IRA, Justice 40 Act. There's a lot of money that's being infused into the system. Also through VCs, I'm on a board of directors for Greentown Labs, the largest clean tech incubator in the United States. And what we're seeing is that bold action could deliver at least $26 trillion in economic benefits through 2030. And this can produce over 65 million low carbon jobs. That's a big change. And so we really have to think about, as all of this money is being infused not only into the private sector, into the public sector, but who is most benefiting and being impacted by the money that's coming in. Globally, we're seeing that governments and utilities alone are expected to spend $60 billion on energy efficiency technologies and investments by 2028. We're seeing this in the EU, we're seeing this in the United States, as new laws and regulations are driving organizational policy and change. The International Energy Agency's roadmap to net zero suggests that $640 billion will be invested each year until 2050. And that's again on energy efficiencies. We're seeing that in the building sector. I mentioned that I come from geotechnical engineering. We're seeing that in the construction sector. And we're also seeing that the value of the global market for carbon emission offsets could be worth $200 billion by 2050. So those are big numbers. Right? And we're seeing that that's driving a lot of this change that we're seeing today. Okay, next slide. So where does technology play in this? What I see is that this is an enormous opportunity to rethink our economic systems and how we might change our economy. To do that, we have to understand all of our resources. And we need to do that in a transparent and accountable way. And in that way, we can be more optimal with our resources and use fewer of them. And to be more optimal, there's absolutely a digital aspect. And underneath that, we need to shift not only to new forms of energy, but we need to use them in different ways. So part of that is this duality between physical and digital systems. And I think we're all kind of in this world, especially with COVID, post-COVID, and the I won't say the advent, but the proliferation of being online more, I'll say Teams and Zoom, right? Different kinds of virtual meetings now becoming more prolific. I know my Uber driver when I was coming here this morning was talking to me about seeing his granddaughter for the first time via Zoom, and having to attend weddings on Zoom and Teams. And so this is the new normal for a lot of us. But what this is being able to bring together both digital and physical systems. And one of the ways that we do that is through the framework of societal impact. So if we think about this in the orientation view, vertical versus horizontal, looking at vertical industries versus horizontal enablers across industry enablers. So energy sector could be a vertical, and technology would be horizontal, which is across industry enabler. What we need to do is be able to scale across both axes. Within technology, we look at hardware assets versus platforms, and we need to scale across innovative platforms. We also look at from a workforce transformation. We have different types of workers. We have the loyal or enhanced worker. We have the more digital, flexible, gig economy worker. My parents would be an example of more of the enhanced workforce. They worked for the same company for 30 years, both my parents and my mom's a nurse. And now younger generations, where we think about them having more of a flexible career. I'm taking classes at Stanford Graduate Business School, and they call this kind of new worker, they call it a portfolio career. And so that, I tell my mom I have a portfolio career. Because I've changed quite a bit. I've changed sectors and I've changed jobs quite a bit. But one of the things with how we're looking at the workforce changing now is that that's not a negative thing. Being able to bring all your experience to bear in your work, and also for organizations to start understanding that people have different work styles throughout their career. And so we're seeing that starting to change. So again, this is a challenge, this is an opportunity to change, right? And by being able to have this duality and being able to integrate these type of systems in a holistic way, using that framework of societal impact, understanding, having empathy for the people for whom we're inventing for is really important as we try to build these dynamic feedback systems so that we can gain information from all the things that we're doing. On the next slide. There is inherently a digital approach to understanding how we do this, right? And most, of course, because I work at Microsoft, every company I work with is interested in how to enable their sustainability journey through digital transformation. And this is an example because what happens is I get in the room, any number of, chief sustainability officers, CEOs, or directors of operations, whomever, right? I get in these rooms and they're like, Dawn, what's happening in launch? Dawn, what's going on? Quantum computing? Tell me about digital trends. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. But how's your data, right? Where's your data set? How are you collecting your data? And it's always the same thing over and over again. It's very important to understand how digital plays a role when we're looking at moving forward in a sustainable way. Number one is being connected. We all have our cell phones. We all know the value of being connected. But within an organization, that helps us to stay aligned. Building that strong digital foundation is key. Being able to leverage the cloud to connect, to automate, and to also visualize an end-to-end view of your business. Next, we need to build intelligent systems to empower your organization, drive agility and responsiveness and flexibility, and moving from being reactive to predictive. And this is technology like IoT, Internet of Things, being able to leverage high performance compute and also machine learning, right? Back in the day, they used to talk about garbage in, garbage out. It's very difficult to build these machine learning algorithms if you don't have the data. That's why we always start with that foundational piece. And it's also very difficult to understand where you need to go if you don't have a firm understanding of where you are. And then the last bit is around that differentiated learning and being able to develop the disruptive capabilities, right? And that's where I think that most organizations and most people start to get excited. And that's where, when we really start talking about change in the energy sector, is where we're able to build new business models. Watching energy companies change their business models is really exciting. That's where companies are able to start leveraging algorithmic decision making and have that automated execution. So they can start becoming more efficient and more sustainable at the same time. So on the next slide. So what we're really talking about is reimagining energy and transitioning to clean energy. And this starts with decarbonization, which is more critical than ever. And we look at really being able to confidently address increasing sustainability expectations and regulations by accelerating decarbonization and adapting business operations toward net zero. On the next slide. So this is the energy landscape in the way that we see it from an energy transition point of view. We're seeing that energy companies are increasingly adding renewable assets to their portfolio, and this is new, we're just seeing this, right? We're seeing energy companies that are expanding their services to support the new energy consumer, the prosumer. I talked with a lot of the solar energy companies, and it's amazing what is coming out right now. Also, we're seeing that not only are energy companies setting new sustainability goals, but they're also embracing their digital transformation journey. There's a lot of statistics around this, who's doing what and where, and what kind of leaders are changing their business to digital transformation. But it's really sparking a lot of innovation and being able to find efficiency to run a better business. We're also seeing that most companies, 85% of companies, see that they must offer digital services to be relevant. And we're also seeing that leaders say that they have less than 4 years to be able to do that. I think it's shorter than that, honestly. The next slide. So the last thing I'll talk about, and I kind of mentioned this before with the dualities, that empathy in action drives business and impact, right? We're not just here doing the right thing. We're doing it, right? We are doing the right thing, but we're doing it so that we can serve our communities. That is the purpose of organizations. And it's with empathy that we're able to really look at our goals, right? Empathy is really that, that bridge that serves to empathy is the bridge so that we can look at what our goals are and then be able to see how to change what's based on our lived realities, right? And really the numbers speak for themselves. 89% of companies that lead with purpose have a competitive advantage. 88% of companies see a differentiation from their peers and competitors. And we see that this leads to increased product innovation, financial performance, and brand loyalty. 95% of companies experience a higher employee retention when they have purpose-driven work. So it's not just about the numbers, but it's also about serving as that gap between really what we're trying to get to and where we are. We have to look at who we're trying to serve and do it in an equitable way. All right, and then on the last slide, I'll just say thank you so much for having me here to speak. Please connect, let's continue the conversation, and congratulations to all of you.